on the aspect of verbal communication. However, there are other aspects of communication as well. Some of those aspects include, in my opinion, which I think is very obvious to most individuals because we encounter them several times throughout the day. You have the verbal communication, but you also, just as importantly, have the nonverbal communication and your written communication. So most people don't always write down all of their thoughts, and a lot of your communication is not only portrayed through your verbal usage, but it's also portrayed through your body language.
I agree.
When you encounter individuals on a daily basis and you're getting ready to approach someone, if their body language is in a defensive manner, are you as readily and quickly to approach that individual as if they were in a non-threatening manner?
Well, for me, because I work with the public, and I do understand that people have different moods for different days. Depending on what my purpose is for communicating with that person is how I handle it.
Okay.
If I'm in a working environment and this is someone that I have to speak with, I have to handle some business, at that particular time, if they're in a defensive mode, I'm going to try to get them to relax first.
And how would you go about doing that?
Well, one thing I know about people is that people like to know that you genuinely care about them.
Okay.
Before they get into any detailed information with you. And so I like to ask about their well-being. I like to ask about family, if there's family involved, if they're a family person. I like to talk about different things to get them to break down the defense mode.
Okay, so what you're basically saying is, I think along the same lines that I would say, to me there are 5 basic principles that you want to follow when you are communicating with any individual to ensure the effective communication has taken place.
Okay.
And based on what you're just saying, I think that follows along with the first step, which is giving that individual your undivided attention, making that connection with that particular individual so that people do know that you care about them and you're interested in what they have to say.
Exactly.
Okay? What are some of the ways that you would say you could give a person your undivided attention? Or what are some of the do's and don'ts that you want to avoid when you are trying to give someone your undivided attention?
In this day and time, one of the main things that have been actually epidemic is when you're speaking with someone, do not pick up your cell phone.
Excellent, excellent suggestion.
I think that a lot of relationships, whether they're business, personal, whatever level it's on, have been negatively affected by a person's inability or the unwillingness to take that little device and set it to the side long enough so that you can give your undivided attention. Okay.
Now, why would you say that cell phone plays such an important role in maintaining effective communication and developing that relationship that you want to have with that individual to have or begin this dialogue?
Well, cell phones, the use of them have just become overwhelming. People depend on their cell phone as if though it's an extension of their hand. Most people have a cell phone near them a majority of the time. And because cell phones are not just used for talking anymore, they're used for communication such as email, text, pictures. There's just a wide, it's a wide scope of things that cell phone does. And so because people have been so used to just picking it up every time it makes a sound, it it's very, even though, because in their mind, they're doing it subconsciously. They don't realize that it's a distraction to the other person that they're speaking to.
Exactly. And that's my point. I believe that when you have an individual who picks up their cell phone, it takes that eye contact away from you, or if they're talking with you and they're on their phone doing various things, then to me, what that relays is that, first of all, I don't have your undivided attention, which also signifies that what I have to say is not important to you. What is being done on your cell phone takes precedence over what it is that I have to say. So I think you're absolutely right. When you are beginning to make conversation or dialogue or communicate with anyone in any form, shape, or fashion, it is vitally important. The first step is to maintain that contact, develop eye contact, establish that rapport and that relationship with that individual. And you're going to do that by giving that person your undivided attention.
I agree.
Okay? I think for me, the second step would be to ensure that you are listening carefully to what is being said. What would you say would be the next thing to occur to make sure that you are communicating effectively?
Well, I like to ask questions when I'm speaking with someone, especially on something that is what I consider an important issue.
Okay.
I like to have them to give me feedback to let me know that they heard and understood what I said.
That's a very valid point. That's actually my number 3, is actually giving you feedback is just basically, I would say, restating what that person has said. When you restate what you have heard that individual say, it not only you're maintaining the eye contact, step number 1, you're listening, you're giving them your undivided attention, and you're able to give them, feed it back to them, or restate what they have said. That ensures that individual that you're speaking with, not only do I respect you, but I am listening effectively, and I care about what it is that you have to say.
I agree.
Okay? And so since you agree, what would you say would be a next or thing that would be important to communicate with someone?
Well, I think it is important to allow people to express themselves freely in a non-threatening environment. A lot of times, especially in relationships, people ask questions, or one or the other of the party has something that they want to communicate to the other person, but because they either fear that person blowing up, it just depends. You have people that are in abusive relationships, you have people that are in boss-employee type relationships. They're all different types of relationships. And whenever you restrict a person from being able to express the way that they feel from their heart, it always hinders effective communication to me. If you ask someone something, you should give them the opportunity to say what's on their mind, whether you agree with it or not, so that both parties can come to some type of resolution or understanding as far as what has been said to them.
And I think you hit the nail definitely on the head. That gives you my last 2 points, which is actually what you were saying in the beginning: allow the person to speak freely and to be able to communicate what it is that express themselves the way they want to. That kind of ties back in for me. What I think about with that is you want to make sure that you are mindful of your voice tone when you are speaking to individuals. Now, everybody's voice is different, and of course we're going to always have fluctuations in your voice, and you have to be very careful, in my opinion, when you're communicating with someone, because your voice tone is going to be reflective of your emotions a lot of time. So if you're excited or you're upset, then your voice tone has a tendency to rise. Well, we have to be mindful of that, because when your voice tone fluctuates, the other person that you're speaking to, or people, will often sometimes perceive that as you're yelling at them or you're upset, when really you may not be, but you know, it sounded like that because your voice tone changed.
Right.
And the final thing that I would say, which is what you also just said, is to ensure that all parties are able to express themselves and come to a form of resolution, which I think ties in with make sure that you have an understanding and you know when to end the conversation and when to walk away, so that everyone is able to state their feelings, learn to agree or disagree agreeably. It makes a difference when you are getting ready to end a conversation. If you know you need to end that conversation, in my opinion, you want to always try to end it on as positive of a note as you possibly can. Even though the discussion may not be finalized, you want to end things on a positive note so that you're able to depart with all parties still feeling okay about themselves and no one is, been out of shape or overly angry, which tends to linger on and cause problems when you try to come back and resolve it. So I think that those things have been some of the best methods and steps that I've been able to practice in all of my various settings, and I'm sure you have as well, when it comes to communication and ensuring that you are effectively communicating with those individuals that you're speaking with. What would you have to say? Any closing remarks?
Well.